Welcome back to Widowed AF. You're here with Rosie Gilmoss, and I have the spectacularly named Jimmy Wild joining me today. Hello, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you, Rosie. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well. And we've just had a little bit of a pre-show chat, and I think Jimmy is going to give us a really good episode today, guys. So just to sort of tell the listeners a little bit about what brought you here, you are a friend of Anthony Parks, aren't you?
I am indeed.
Yeah, so Anthony, I think, was in the first 5 of our episodes. He was a really, really engaging guest. He lost his husband to suicide, and the way he sort of made the decision to kind of grab life by the balls, as it were, I found really, really inspiring. I really liked him, and we're actually meeting up to go and see this ABBA thing at O2 later in the year. So anyway, this is not Anthony's episode. I do apologise, Jimmy, but he obviously got something from going through this process, and you felt that maybe would work for you, which is I'm really pleased about, actually, because it means that what we're doing here is actually kind of doing real good. So Tom died of a stroke at just 30, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
And you weren't married, which I won't ask you to go into too much detail now because I'm going to get you to tell your story, but that, as we know, causes extra complications.
Yeah. There's not a lot of protection law-wise for people who are unmarried, unfortunately. But, it is what it is, really.
Yeah. We've seen the campaign to get better support for people who've been widowed with children when they're not married, because the idea that makes somebody any less of a parent is so peculiar. Yeah. But anyway, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you now, just in your own words, to tell the story of what brought you here. And, you stop at any time. And as I say to all my guests, this is your story, not mine. So you take your time and you say as much or as little as you'd like.
So what I'll do is I'll start from the beginning, because it's one of my favourite stories to tell about meeting Tom. And I was 19. I just moved to uni. I was living in Derby, and he was living just a couple of streets away from me. And we met online. And I kind of built this kind of image of Tom in my head. What is he like? What does he talk like? How tall is he? All these kind of things. And then when I met him, he wasn't like that at all. And he was actually the complete opposite. I thought he was, 6'1", sporty, masculine. And when he opened the door, he was like, hiya, 5'7" little Tom. And I was like, this is not what I thought I was getting into. And at first, I really wasn't very sure about him, but we bonded in the pub over a few pints. And
that'll do it, yep.
That will do it. I said, what's your favourite band? Doing it, The Killers. I was like, oh, mine too. Okay, maybe we've got something in common then. And the rest is history. And I spent pretty much every single day with him for the past 7 years with him, and I never left his side. And it was an absolute roller coaster of ups and downs, moving house constantly, new jobs. And it was just, we were just partners in crime. We just got into trouble with each other. And it was just so funny. I wouldn't have changed a thing about it. And we were kind of in our late stages of planning the rest of our lives together, really, in that we were thinking about and looking at buying houses. We were talking about marriage, talking about children. And yeah, he just turned 30. We just had his 30th birthday a couple of weeks before. And all of a sudden, he just became unwell. And he didn't have any sort of problems beforehand. Wasn't suffering with anything that I know of. And just one day, he said, I just don't feel very well. And he never complained about feeling well. He was always absolutely fine. And it just went from 1 to 100 really quickly.
Yeah.
So I came downstairs one day, and he was sick all over the floor. And at first, I was very unsympathetic. I was like, what the hell did you do that for? You vomited all over the cat tunnel. And now
all over the what? The cat tunnel?
The cat tunnel. Like a little pop-up tunnel that children must drink. The cats had one. And the sick was all in my shoes, just on my shoes, no one else's.
Oh, no.
So I was like, Tom, literally, you can't do this anymore. It's like, please stop being sick all over my shoes.
Was this a regular occurrence?
Tom had a special talent for projectile vomiting. And it was usually on my things.
When inebriated or unwell?
Oh, sober, not sober. I feel a bit sick, so I'm going to projectile vomit. So I'm like, oh, wait.
It's like the kids, they always manage to get me. Anyway, sorry, we digress. Sorry, I just had to interject.
So, yeah, he just said, I don't feel very well. And he said he couldn't see. He said he couldn't stand up. He was in pain. And I thought, something's not right here. This sounds very strange. So I called 111 and they sent out a paramedic. The paramedic was like, I think you've got a migraine. And I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. I don't think he's having a migraine, because if he wiggles his feet, he vomits.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is very strange. Like, he could just wiggle his toe and he'd be sick everywhere. And they said, we're going to get the doctor out. I said, you're absolutely not going to get a doctor out. You're going to take it to A&E because something is wrong. This was during COVID, where I assumed where you couldn't go as a visitor and go with them. So I waited around for a few hours, and then I turned up to go and see him in hospital. And he was just laying there and he was absolutely fine, like as if nothing had happened. I thought, oh, maybe he's just maybe he did have a migraine. And then 20 minutes later, he had a turn, and that's when he had his first stroke. And I was like, what on earth is going on here? He's having a stroke. I got the doctor in. She was like, okay, this is not right. Stroke. Nurse came down. She asked me to leave the room. She shut the door. She came out. She said, I'm so sorry, Tom's having a stroke. And I remember just sitting on the floor in A&E, crying into my face mask and thinking, this can't be real. And all these people were just staring at me. And Tom had been wheeled off into resus. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like,
how is this my life, right?
I was like, this isn't real. I'm going to wake up in a minute. And we saw him in resus, and he just wasn't him. His speech was slurred. He couldn't move. He was vomiting everywhere. And I just thought, this is insane. The doctors tried to explain to me that he'd only had a very small minor stroke and that he would recover perfectly fine and be out in a couple of days. And I thought, okay, great. They took him up to a ward. He kind of came back around himself. He was absolutely fine. He was like, babe, can you stand me up? I need a wee. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So stood him up. He weed into those horrible little cup tube thingies. Told me he loved me, gave me a kiss on the cheek. And the nurse came around and said, I think he's going to be absolutely fine. We're going to keep him awake during the night just to see how he is. Come back tomorrow. We'll discuss his plan. He'll go home. And I thought, fine. Didn't worry about it. They had my number in case anything went wrong. And then everything just did go wrong.
Oh, I've just written that down. Everything did go wrong. That's a really powerful sentence, that one, isn't it? Everything did go wrong, because it did. And so many people relate to that everything went wrong in that moment. Did you ever see him again?
Yeah. So I went back to hospital the next day and thought he's going to be lucid, fine, as he is. Went back and he was completely gone again. He was confused. He didn't really know who people were. He couldn't talk properly, and he just declined really rapidly. And I mean, within 15 minutes,
Jesus.
within 15 minutes, the doctors reckoned he was dead. And I remember watching all of these people just swarm into this room, and consultants shining lights into his eyes not dilating, him not breathing properly, a crash trolley. And I'm thinking, I'm like, am I having an out-of-body experience? He was fine 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
Then rushing him out of this stroke ward into resus, doing scans, doctor saying, we're going to have to take him to Nottingham Hospital to have an operation on his skull if they think that's suitable. They took him away. The last words Tom ever said to me while he was kind of in and out of consciousness was, he looked at me and went, babe. And I went, what? He went, please shut the fuck up. Because I was crying my eyes out. And that was
I feel really bad for laughing then. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
Tom used to love to say, shut the fuck up.
I love to say shut the fuck up.
I annoyed him all the time, and I will own that.
That's relationships, isn't it? That's half the fun.
He just went, babe, shut the fuck up. And I was like, oh God, sorry.
Were those his last words to you?
Those were his last words to me. Yeah, so he was taken to QMC, and we were in the car there, and my phone starts ringing, and a consultant on my phone is a surgeon. And he goes, this is going to be quite a difficult conversation to have while you're in the car. And I was like, right. He said, has Tom ever expressed any wishes to not want to live where he could not look after himself? And I was like, what on earth are you talking about? And he went, Tom is very unwell, and we need your permission to do this surgery because we don't think he's going to survive. And if he does survive, there is a very good chance that Tom will be completely unable to do anything for himself. So I was like, so I don't understand what my options are. Do I say no and let Tom die? Or do I say yes and maybe make Tom live a life that he didn't want to live?
Yeah,
I said, is there
confine
any
him.
chance? Is there any chance of Tom making a full recovery? Yes, there is a chance of that. And I said, and then I can't let it go. I said, you've got to do it. There is a chance that he could be okay. So they did the surgery. I remember waiting outside the surgery room, just sat there thinking, oh my God, I have no idea what this next person's going to come to this room and say to me. I
Yeah.
don't know if Tom's dead. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know what's happened. And the nurse comes in and goes, the operation went quite well. He's still alive. And we're just going to see how he goes for the next couple of days. Okay. So we're going to keep him in a coma and just let his brain rest and recover. See if we can reduce any of the swelling, because that was the problem. The swelling in his brain
Right.
pushed against his skull, and then his brain kind of shut down to protect itself. And to cut a long story short, I went back every day, sat by his bedside, held his hand, and the doctor said, they took me in a room and said, I'm very sorry, Tom's dead. We've done everything we can, but it was a catastrophic brain injury, and this kind of stroke happens to 1 in a million people. And I thought, well, that's Tom in a nutshell, really.
1 in a million.
1 in a million. And they said, the only thing that we can do now is, what we'll do is we'll move Tom over, and if you would like to, you can get on the bed with him and say your goodbyes. And I thought, okay, well, this is going to be gut wrenching, but so that's what we did. So the nurses moved him over. After 5 days of doing all they could, I just laid down to him, held his hand. I played our wedding song that we were going to have as our first dance.
May I ask what that is?
It's The One by Codaline. Held his hand, gave him a kiss, told him how much I loved him and what a wonderful life we had together. And I was just so sorry that it was robbed from him, because that was hard. Not just me, but he was really robbed of the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And if anyone didn't deserve it, it definitely wasn't Tom. So yeah, that was really hard. And I remember saying goodbye for the last time. And it's something I'll never forget, is, saying goodbye to someone that you loved and who loved you, and you'll never see them ever again or talk to them.
It's really tough, isn't it? It's really tough. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I really am. And you can probably hear my voice. I'm feeling a bit emotional. I can really see it and hear it as you talk. I think that you were really brave. I think that you were really brave to make that choice and for him to have the operation. And I think from the very little I've heard about Tom, speaking to you now, I think that it was a choice he would have wanted. And it's lots of our guests have to make really, really hard choices. And I think that you must know now that you did everything that you could, and that must give you some slight comfort, I hope. How long has it been? When did he die?
He died May 15th last year.
Last year. So
I've just had my year anniversary.
Your year. So it is still fresh and quite raw for you. Do you consider yourself still in the chicken and wine phase, or you're familiar with our term chicken and wine phase?
I'm not. I don't know what phase I'm in anymore. I go through real waves of emotions of the 7 stages of grief. Really, they don't. You don't just go through one. You go through all of them at different.
All
stages,
at the same time. Some days,
all
right?
At the same time, and I don't know where I am. It's. I have days where I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I have days where I'm like, I'm going to make you Tom. I'm going to make you proud, Tom.
Yeah.
And then are days I'm like,
I can't get out of bed.
Why on earth is this happening to me? Why on earth did this happen to him? Why are all his friends without an empty seat? What is going on here?
Yeah. I really, really get that kind of injustice and the feeling of them being robbed. And I feel this all the time about Ben. And, I talk about it all the time. I have a really lovely life now. I'm happy, but every single thing still reminds me of what he has been denied, and you talk about not having children, but the fact that you would have liked children. So it's not just the loss of your person, it's the loss of all your shared history, all your future. My dog's barking, I do apologise. All your future and your plans. And you're right, you were robbed. He was robbed. And they never deserve it. Why do they seem to take the good ones, right? Horrible cliche that people do try and say to us, the good ones always go first. You'll stay around then, won't you? So obviously you're a same-sex couple. So I don't want to make this conversation all about this because it's not desperately relevant, but it will have had an impact on how you were treated by the authorities and perhaps what support was accessible to you. And I would like to hear a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
So I've always said that, and other same-sex couples can agree. It's like when you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, any of the letters, and you've lost your partner, it's like coming out twice, because you've got to tell people gay, and you've also got to tell people that you're widowed or you lost your partner.
Yeah.
And usually people take the widowed bit worse,
Okay.
because people are not really bothered by people's sexuality most of the time. But when you talk about losing your partner, they suddenly don't know what to say. You say, "Oh, I'm actually back for the other team." "Oh, I've got a friend who does that." I'm like, "Cool. Oh, my partner's also dead." "Ah, okay then.
My
Right.
dog died.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's change the subject." And they find that more uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah.
And especially when I tried, kind of thought, "Am I ready to move on from Tom? Will I ever move on from Tom? Probably not. Do I want to be with someone else? I don't sure, but I dip my toes in it anyway." A lot of people didn't want it. They were like,
Mhm.
"That's a lot of baggage. That is a lot to think about." And it must be incredibly hard for people who are with people who are widowed, lost their husbands, wives, that you will always love someone else
Yeah.
that isn't them.
Yeah.
And props to them, because that is difficult. And so the thing that I struggled with was, when I lost Tom, I lost my best friend and partner, but I also lost someone who paid the bills, and I paid the bills with, and then suddenly that's gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I can't magic this money out of thin air. You go to the government. I've lost my partner. Can I have support? Were you married? No. Were you in a partnership? No. Why not? Because you couldn't afford it.
And because it
You know,
didn't define our relationship, because it's not the
it's like
1950s, right?
but it would have been different if we had been married the day before and then he died.
Oh, yeah.
But I just don't understand. So I kind of saw myself, right, now I have no idea what to do. How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay the rent? But to be honest, the support that I received after Tom being same sex has been really positive. Nobody's really batted an eyelid at all. I joined Way. They have their own subsection of
Oh,
LGBT
yeah.
people. They're all really supportive. They all know what it feels like. I've been to counsellors, therapists.
So you've had counselling. I was going to ask about that actually, about the sort of long-term implication of this, because this must have come with some degree of PTSD and trauma, obviously. And I do always like to find out sort of how people have managed this. And you touched on therapy there. It's a talking therapy. Have you tried any of the EGMRs or anything like this?
So I accessed therapy through work. I paid for my own private therapist. I went to the doctors, talked about medication, and went to support groups. And all of them are great for the hour, because you can talk about your feelings. But when the hour is up,
Yeah.
what is left is your thoughts, and you kind of let it all out, and you've cried, and you've sat back and you thought, now that I've talked about it, nothing's changed. And that's what I found incredibly difficult to come to terms with, is that no matter how much I cried, nothing changed.
Yeah. So you feel
And although
completely powerless, don't you? Nothing,
you,
you can't bargain, you can't buy, you can't beg, you can't, nothing you do is going to bring you the one thing that you need in that moment. And you feel
yeah.
completely impotent and powerless, and it's horrible.
And so that's what I found, is that even though I did all I could to talk about it, nothing changed.
Yeah. They're still
Um,
dead, right?
they're not coming back. So that was nice, but I've stopped now, because I'm really trying to rely on myself, because I think I've relied so much on other people that maybe some inner strength is needed to rely on myself, because at the end of the day, you're stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. You might as
Yeah.
well bloody like yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. Actually, you spend more company with yourself than anybody else, and I hear what you're saying about needing to take responsibility and do it yourself, and I think that is integral to any healing. Is it, nobody's going to do it for you. That's something I've learned along the way in many areas of my life, but I also think you can lean on people as well. You don't have to do it all yourself. Like, it's only been a little more than a year since your entire world was blown apart, and you're not invincible. You must look after yourself, because it's awful. What's happened to you is just awful, and I really am very sorry. How?
It's hard just to, when all of this is just sadness, it's incredibly difficult. And I maybe this is a bit selfish, but I don't want to inflict my sadness on other people,
Yeah, I
because
understand that.
it's Tom hated people moping around. And if I was ever sad, he'd be like, get over it. Get yourself a drink, go outside, go to the pub, and stop moping around. It's boring. And I'd be like, oh, God. And I can still hear him now going, you're pathetic.
Oh, I don't think he'd think you were pathetic, Alan. I think he'd be
Oh,
really
God, he would.
proud. Now, talk to me a little bit about family dynamics and things. Were you close to each other's families? Has that been able to continue? How's that been? But again, if you don't wish to, please stay. You can tell me to shut up.
So things are a bit complicated with Tom's family. Tom had a huge family.
Ben too. He was one of 6 children, which is mental.
And I just think, how on earth do you have time? Like, they were the kind of family that would go on holiday with the family.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really sweet, but completely alien to me.
I remember first Christmases at Ben's house. I was like, oh my God.
I was like, there are so many of you.
How do you remember each other's names?
I'm like, I've been here 3 times and met all of you numerous times. I have no idea who any of you are.
Need a badge.
And yeah, they've been really supportive for the ones that I still speak to.
Yeah, do you know what? I can see how awkward this is for you. Would you like me to let you off? We're going to gloss over that bit.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm sort of flicking back and forth because I made a few notes on, and just to kind of bring you back into that horrible time, if you don't mind. It's a couple of things that I picked up on here, whether, you talked about it feeling like a hospital drama, and I get that as well. I felt very much like I was in an episode of some gritty BBC drama for a long time, and this sort of out-of-body experience, and you're looking at yourself and thinking, wake up. This can't be real. Wake up.
This doesn't happen to us. This happens to other people.
No. And a 30-year-old man having a stroke and just dying, like, that doesn't happen.
No.
And because it's so unlikely, and it's, thankfully not an everyday occurrence, it takes longer to process. And I think the shock as well. And your life essentially went on hiatus while you were in the hospital. You were wearing your COVID mask as well. And I don't know why that the image of you crying into your COVID mask has just broken my heart. I just think, you poor thing. But you did advocate for him. You fought for him, and you pushed for care, and you sat with him, and you gave him everything that you possibly could at that time. And I think I've actually got goosebumps saying this, because I do think that that's a gift that you were able to give him at the end. And I think that's very special, but it doesn't make what you're going through any easier.
I will remember all of it for the rest of my life. And it still comes back to my dreams to haunt me. And it will, because those 5 days in ICU were dreadful. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. The only kind of comfort I got was that although he had lots of things keeping him alive, he just looked like he was asleep.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we love to do together, it's nap. And we loved an afternoon nap. And he just looked like he was asleep. And he also couldn't tell me to shut up, so I could just go, meh, 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 meh.
You could talk and talk, yeah.
I could talk and talk. I was talking to him about Eurovision. I was talking to him about Drag Race. And yeah, so those days in the hospital were just diabolical, but the staff couldn't do enough. And I remember, this is like a core memory, is when I had my final moments with Tom, the ICU nurses looking after Tom were hugging each other in the corner and crying.
Oh.
And I just thought, how on earth are they crying? They must see this all the time. But,
well, he must have touched them. You must have done. They must have felt this love between you both, and it must be horrible watching people be torn apart like that. And
when before he was moved to Nottingham, the nurses on the stroke team in Derby, when he was awake and lucid and talking, and we were together and stuff, they rang me not long after he died, and they said, "We are so incredibly sorry, because we could just tell how much you adored each other, and when you weren't here, all Tom did was ask for you, and talk about you."
Make me cry.
And they just said that's all he ever talked about was you, and they just said, "We are heartbroken because we could just see how much you loved each other," and it's just I just couldn't. I still can't believe it. I don't think I ever will believe it. But I think other people could just genuinely feel that we had like a real connection to each other, not mentally and physical, but spiritually as well.
Yeah.
And we were opposites in a way. but we really glued together like spectacularly. Cheese and chalk comes to mind.
Yeah, I like a yin. I say, John, I like yin and yang. You know, you need both sides to make it work, and that's why many relationships, successful relationships, people are different. Well, I know it's not been a huge amount of time that's passed since you lost him, but what does life look like for you now? Do you still live in the same home? I know you told me before we came on mic that you have left your job, and actually you have a job interview in 1 hour. So,
Yeah. So I still live in the same house, and I was still working in the same job. So I decided that I wanted to finish working where I was, and because it was incredibly difficult working for the same company, living in the same house, and essentially feel like I'm living my old life.
yeah,
I would still leave work and expect to come home to Tom.
yeah, I get that.
And this is the house we shared all of our memories in. And although it is different now, it still has his memory everywhere, in every room. I still think of Tom everywhere I look. His pictures are on the wall still, things that he's left behind are still here. His clothes are still in the drawer.
Are they?
And so life now is different, but I try and make it as positive as possible. One of the things that I'm truly, truly grateful for is that Tom left me some money when he passed away.
Yeah.
And so I've just purchased my first house, which I'm waiting to move into.
Congratulations.
I've just bought my first car. I'm learning how to drive. So all these things.
Is it a Ferrari?
No, it's just a Volkswagen, but it's so cute. It's like, even in this awful time, Tom has looked after me.
Yeah.
And this will be something I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah.
If I don't want it this way, but it has to be this way. There's nothing I can do about it.
No.
And even now that he's gone, he's still looking after me.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for him. I don't want these things. I want Tom, but Tom's not coming back.
No.
And all I can do is do what I think he would have wanted and things he's told me he wanted me to do. Because we had this conversation when he was alive. If the worst happened to me, what do you want me to do, Tom? And he'd go, I want you to try and do whatever it is to make yourself successful in life. If this happens, make sure you look after yourself, live your life, have fun, love other people, love yourself, and just don't forget about me. And so that's what I'm trying to do. There are days where I have doubts. Am I doing the right thing? Have I said the right thing? Am I going to do the right thing? But that's all about being human, is you don't know if you're doing the right thing until you do the wrong thing.
No.
And so everything that I try and do when I'm driving in my car that I'm known to drive in, I'm driving home from where I used to pick him up from work, I'm thinking, look, Tom, I can do it myself now.
Yeah.
And I bet he'd be like, go on, Jimmy. Or whenever I get upset, I just think to myself, what would Tom say? And that goes in my head all the time. What would Tom say? And it'd probably be something really, really disgusting, sarcastic, and dirty-minded. But that's what keeps me going.
And the fact that you are able to speak so fondly and with such humour about him is really lovely as well, because you said then about him not wanting you to forget him, and legacy is a conversation that comes up quite regularly in these chats. And none of us want to be forgotten, do we? None of us like the thought that, once we go, that's it. And I think by doing this, of course, you are talking about him and sharing his story and enabling his legacy to continue. And I think that's really, really lovely. And I love the fact that you've bought yourself a house with money that he left you. I think that's wonderful. And I think bricks and mortar, for you to be safe, that's what he would want.
Yeah.
Are you staying in Derby?
I am. Yeah, I'm moving a bit further out, and I'm taking my housemate with me. We decided to buy the property together, and if I wanted to give a couple of minutes to talk about my housemate, if that's okay.
Yes, of course it is. No, it's not strange at all. I'm very interested.
But his name is Eason, and we work together in the same company. And I thought to myself, when Tom had gone, I can't afford the rent by myself. I'm going to have to leave. So I thought, as a last ditch attempt, I thought I'll stick this on wherever I can, see if I can get a roommate. I pretty much gave up. It wasn't going well. And then out of the blue messaged me saying, would you consider me coming to live with you? Well, yeah, sure. Come round and look at the house. And he did. He came a couple of hours later, was like, yeah, I'm going to go get my stuff and I'll be back in about 3 hours' time. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
And we hardly knew each other. We knew each other at work, but we didn't really speak. And I think this was July or June he moved in. And he's been my absolute saving grace. because he's kept me going. He's come in and me and my mum have always said that Tom sent Ethan to come and make sure I was all right.
Oh,
So
what's his name? Is it Ethan?
Ethan.
Ethn. Ethan. Eson.
Eason.
Sorry, I just wanted to get it right because this guy sounds like an absolute dude.
He is a dude. So yeah, so shout out to you, and thank you so much for looking after me.
Thank you, Ethan, on our behalf as well, because, and apologies for mishearing your name, but people that take care of the widowed are good people.
And yeah, he came in and it absolutely saved me. And yeah, he was just kind of, he's just been my guardian angel. Happy birthday for you, Ethan, by the way.
You said what, sorry?
Happy birthday for yesterday, Ethan.
Oh, happy birthday.
So yeah, so life afterwards has been, like everyone's, a plethora of ups and downs. I've had joy speaking about Tom. I've had absolute joy speaking to people about their own grief. But then there are days where the loneliness and the realization cripples you.
Yeah.
And I remember the specific moment where it really hit me was I just finished shopping in B&M buying shit that you don't need.
Love it. Love buying shit in B&M that I don't need.
Nobody goes to B&M to buy something they need.
No.
People go to B&M to buy things that they don't need.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I've got
to scratch that itch.
and a towel rack. Like, great. And I remember having bags of shopping and coming out of the shop, and the sun was really like glowing orange and red, and looking out the sun, and Tom was the driver in our relationship. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to go home by myself now. There's no one here to take my shopping home with me, because that's what we do. We go to B&M, buy shit we didn't need and go home. And I remember stood there and I started crying in the car park. I was like, I'm on my own now. Like that, this is it. And I just thought, what a bizarre realization, because the days after Tom died, I didn't feel anything.
No, you go into a state of shock, don't you?
I was completely numb. I didn't cry, nothing. And I just remember laying in my mum's bed because she was looking after me and just watching YouTube videos like nothing had happened. And I was like,
I used to go into my phone for hours. I'm sure I gave myself RSI from scrolling the internet.
It's just a distraction, isn't it?
You mentioned earlier as well about the therapy and how when you leave after your hour or however long you're in for, that's it. And that's where the kind of widowed network comes in, isn't it? Because if you are a member of WAY or, whatever support group you choose, there's always or usually somebody who's awake or available to talk, and that is that kind of peer support and that feeling of being a tribe, because it is the club that nobody wants to join. None of us want to be here, do we? But what we find is that those that survive it are the people that go, okay, I didn't ask to be here, but this is what it is. And I think you use words almost to that effect. This is not what I expected. It's not what I signed up for, but it is the life I have. And the only other choice I have is not to live it. So grab it by the balls and off you go, really, isn't it?
The amount of times I've messaged in the WAY group going, anyone awake?
Same. It's like the widow version of what is it, WWU up or something like that people get on text. Yeah. I've never had one of those. I used to love them.
I haven't mean neither. And the amount of times I've done that and people message go, hey, okay, I'm like, please just distract me for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
I just want to go to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's talk about octopuses or something. I don't care.
Just anything. I'm lonely and I'm scared.
Just talk shit to me, because honestly, I don't know what to do. And yeah, but it's about playing with the cards that you're dealt. And
yes, it is.
It's a shit hand. You're never going to win, but you might as well carry on playing anyway. And
the next round might be fun. You never know, do you?
Yeah, that might be fun. But yeah, the WAY group have been really supportive. And I think it's incredibly brave that all these people who have gone through probably the worst thing in their life have decided to go, how can I make this better for someone else? And all the people that have been there for years who welcomed me with open arms, who were like, I'm so sorry this has happened to you, but I've been through this. Here's what you should expect. It's different for everyone, but here's what might happen. Yeah.
And we all, I find there's lots of shared experiences with people. Every story is unique and different, but there are so many common themes throughout it.
And me and Anthony, we bonded over how similar our stories were. Although the ways that our respective partners died, the aftermath of what happened was so similar. I couldn't believe it. I thought someone had copied and pasted our lives, and we kind of were designed to just meet and talk and go, oh shit, that happened to you too?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet she said this afterwards. I bet he said that afterwards. And, he talked about when you see people in the street, they cross over and they don't want to talk to you. I thought, oh, That happened to
Not
me
just
too.
me then.
And it's like you will lose friends
Yeah.
because
Oh,
your
yeah.
partner died, and it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, but you'll also gain some new ones. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's learning to sort of let go of some of your past and embrace what's coming up the road, because none of us know what's up there. Well, Jimmy, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. You are incredibly eloquent and you speak so beautifully about Tom and the love that you shared. And as I've said numerous times already, I am so sorry that this happened to you. And I'm so sorry that Tom isn't here, because you're right, he was robbed, and he was robbed of a life with you, and you were robbed of a life with him. And it is grossly and horribly unfair. But I think, as you acknowledge yourself, that he would look at what you're doing and the mountains you're climbing and the strength of just getting out of bed every day. And, you know, who knows whether they see the other side. But I think if he could, he'd smile now.
I hope so. I really do.
Well, good luck with your job interview. This will be going out a couple of weeks after, so we should know by then if you got it. So we'll only reveal it if you do. But best of luck to you, my darling, and stay in touch, because I'm still in touch with Anthony, and you sort of become part of the family once you've done one of these. You can't bare your soul like this and not feel a bond with people. So thank you for being brave, for talking about it, because the more people that talk about it, the less like the troll under the bridge we feel. And without, you know, our guests, we couldn't do this. So thank you very much, and best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me.